brands, supply agents, as well as workers, and very much from a dialogue-based approach, and by focusing on improving factory-level grievance mechanisms and making use of the Indian labor law and the statutory committees that the Indian labor law prescribes. So the program was mainly implemented in Tamil Nadu. So all the garment brands involved in the project did have or do have suppliers in Tamil Nadu. Later on, the program was upscaled to a few factories in the national capital region, that's around Delhi, and in Bangalore. So in these two regions, the implementing partner was Paradigm Shift. And in Bangalore, another CSO, CVDEP, implemented a pilot factory project in two factories together with two of the brands in the project. So at front, we've specified the different roles and responsibilities of the partners in the program. So it was up to the brands to map supply chains, to engage with their suppliers and agents, also to connect their agents and suppliers with the implementing partners, with Paradigm Shift and CVDEP. And we had multiple calls where also Elisa participated, where we jointly discussed strategies on onboarding and engaging. Another role of the brands is to follow up on the insights and results of the training and dialogue sessions at factory level. So to make sure that the information that came out of those trainings and sessions also feeds back into the brand's policies and practices, as well as their purchasing practices. The role of suppliers was to engage, to collaborate with the implementing partners, and to be open and actively take part in this approach, as well as to follow up on insights that came out of it, as well as to follow up on issues and grievances raised by workers. Paradigm Shift and CVDEP are the implementing, let's say, facilitators. So at factory level, they facilitated the dialogue and training sessions. They supported both management and workers in taking up actions based on discussions and grievances or challenges that came out of the dialogue sessions, as well as the grievance channels. And also, they took up an important role in linking and learning between themselves, to share different experiences and also practically sometimes how to take next steps at factory level. But also in Tamil Nadu, there were learning sessions between workers from different factories, and those were workers involved in the committees, also to share experiences and to learn from each other. Arisa and Mondial FNV supported the program as facilitating parties, linking and learning between brands, and also to share expertise and knowledge on the different social themes, and on including on freedom of association. Yes. So I will shortly reflect on the main results that we achieved. So in total, there were 20 factories nominated. It means that we engaged with 20 factories. It's not the case that in all these factories we were able to fully implement the training and dialogue activities. We can see that there has been differences in how the program was received. In total, we reached more than 3,700 workers. In the final year, the number of in-factory dialogue and training sessions was above 60, and in 8 factories, elections were held for electing committee members. In some of the factories, there had already elections had taken place, and in some of the factories where there was also need to redo elections. So it differed from factory per factory how the exact activities were implemented. Well, the program resulted in a lot of insights in working conditions as well as violations in the factories. This differed from like more minor issues related to hygiene or food, but also issues related to excessive working hours, non-registration to social security, non-payment of minimum wages, issues related to freedom of movement of hostile workers. So it was a diverse insights into the working conditions. These insights were obtained because of the improved collaboration between brands, suppliers, agents, and together with the implementing partners, and also the level of trust that was built between the different parties involved, which made it possible to basically openly speak about these challenges and violations, and also jointly discuss measures to take to address these issues. The training and dialogue sessions also resulted in increased awareness and insights on labor rights, both among workers, among middle management, as well as top management. And in 11 factories, we really observed improved grievance mechanisms at factory level, as well as concrete steps that were taken to improve working conditions. And this is also a variety of different improvements, from improved food in canteens to formalization of the workforce. Like in some of the factories, were a lot of contract workers, so workers not directly hired by the primary employer. And in several factories, steps were taken to formalize the workforce. Working hours is another topic addressed in some of the factories. So we see concrete steps were taken. In the panel discussions later on, we will reflect more on the results. So I would like to give the floor back to Sandra.
Okay, thank you, Diewertje, for this brief explanation of the factory support program and what we have done in the last few years. Yes, then I would like to invite the panelists who I have already introduced, but who are now on the screen. The first part of the session, we will have a discussion on the approach, the experiences, and the results of the factory support program. And my first question is for Kira. Kira, very happy to have you in the session. Can you share a little bit from your perspective how the factory support program has been different from other responsible business conduct activities or programs at your company? You are still on mute, Kira.
Yes, I can, and thank you for the introduction and the invitation. This is the first time that we really have training on this topic, apart from auditing and the audits we receive on a yearly or 6-monthly base. And this is really on worker management dialogue and factory levels, factory grievance mechanisms. And we really work together, especially Mutu in our case, with the supplier on this. And it's really interactive between the workers and the management. So that's what makes it different, that we are involved and not the third-party auditors, and that we could really see it ourselves and learn from it ourselves as well.
Thanks, Kira. You mentioned Mutu, and Mutu, you were present in India in the training sessions yourself. How did you experience the implementation of the program in the supplier factory?
Yeah, hi everyone. Good morning and good afternoon. Yeah, initially there was some hesitations from the factory management because they did not aware of the complete process of the program. But when the session progressed, management recognized the practical value of the worker management dialogue. So then when it starts, then workers become more vocal about their concerns, and management also gained a clearer understanding of the responsibilities in grievance resolution.
Thanks. Nice to hear that from you as a participant, more or less, but observer to the trainings. Then I would like to come to Neil. Neil, you have been conducting the trainings in the last year of the program. Can you elaborate a little bit on the approach that you took as Paradigm Shift in this factory support program?
Yeah. Thanks, Sandra, and good morning and good afternoon to everyone. So, as Duarji already explained, that we tried to come up with some out-of-the-box ideas, like, which is completely based on relationship building, trust, and collaboration. And that's where we came up with the idea of participatory due diligence kind of approach, and also doing some participatory assessment, which completely depends on trust building, relationship building, rather than the classical auditing, which is suspecting, fault finding kind of thing. And here we started with forming a committee where everyone is included. Like, we have presence of top management, we have presence of mid management, we have presence of different committee members like works committee, committee on sexual harassment, occupational health and safety committee, and somewhere some other stakeholders. And this is where, very interestingly, we people, we played the role of facilitator, like role of the dialogue catalyst, rather than directly, directing or directly doing anything. And this is how the whole process was very different. And we tried to open up ideas, tried to open a space, create a safe space where people can come up with question, challenge some set ideas and prototype. And we also trying to nourish all the new ideas which is popping up, new strategies and new models. Because, we always believe that the people who are actually working in the factory, who are actually with the system, they know where the pain is. They know where the actual challenges are. And that's why we wanted to create a non-judgmental, non-threatening open space so that management and all all the workers, they can come up, they can openly discuss that, well, this is the system, this is where our problem is, this is some of the challenges. Let's see what we can come up with. And we use different tools. We used different dialectical tools. We use different local form of dialogue, forum theater. We use different games, World Cafe, and absolutely not anything on PPT. And that's where it is a little different. And while doing that, we had very interesting insights also, very interesting learning also, which we learned through the process, definitely thanks to Arisa, that even for us, we had some blindness, some blindness on caste angle, some blindness on some of the harassment, which generally don't come on the surface. How to track that, how to see that. And this was our great learning. And that's why, we tried to incorporate all the new ideas into this methodology. Now, coming to the, the kind of training or kind of sessions we had, we always co-created with the people who were there, like, all the committee member, even, including top management, taking their ideas, giving some of our ideas. And that's why all the training programs were very much inclusive, and we tried to focus all the roles, responsibilities for the people, and also how to attempt towards going to resolve some of the conflict areas, how to start a little bit of negotiation, taking some baby steps. And also, these are some of the areas like we wanted to, ensure that cross-functional participation is there. Like in our factory, we have seen there is a large amount of workers from different states, interstate migrants, whether these people are taking part in decision making, whether they are taking part in the election, whether they are included in the committee, whether they are victim of any kind of harassment or any kind of unseen discrimination. So that was also something we always wanted to include in our trainings and sessions. And apart from that, we tried to build some external linkage also, which is a very taboo area, like, how to talk to, some of the external stakeholders like unions, because these are very fair areas among factories. But we had, fortunately, after several sessions, we had this open dialogue, and we had this external linkage where committees of different factories, they were able to connect, they were able to share ideas, and also they are able to meet some of the external stakeholders and have dialogue. And very interestingly, we were also able to connect sourcing agent in the whole this ecosystem, because we also realized that somewhere they are also very important part of the ecosystem, and we need to hear them also. And if there is a stuck, we need their active participation. And thankfully, wherever required, we received that support. Not everywhere, factory was very open. And through that inclusive dialogue, where sourcing agent and also somewhere brand was also participating, we were able to focus and we were able to open up our sessions. Yes, George.
Thank you. I think you are describing like very nicely how you prepared and implemented these trainings with the different
Right.
groups of both workers and management in the factories.
Right.
If you can have a look already at the Q&A, there are some interesting questions coming up. I will not address them in the session yet, but maybe you can already have a look. We will be able to have some of them be answered live, but it's very much about the way you implemented and conducted the training. So I think very interesting questions. But I first would like to go to Pradipan, because Pradipan, you participated with CVDEP India in a pilot like drawn from the factory support program in Tamil Nadu, but slightly different, with a slightly different approach. Can you please explain a little bit how you approached the pilot in Bangalore?
Sure. First of all, a big thanks to Arisa for organizing this session on this topic of worker management dialogue. We have not seen a lot of collaboration between businesses and CSOs on this theme. I mean, so it's a great opportunity to share experiences and insights from the pilot project that we have been part of. So now coming to CVDEP's approach to the program. So Diverge outlined it in her presentation that our involvement in the FSP program was just limited to the pilot project in 2 garment factories in Karnataka. Since it was a project with a specific time frame, we approached it differently. It's quite different from the way Paradigm Shift carried out the program in Tamil Nadu. So in general, statutory committees are protected by laws, and companies are mandated to have statutory committees, which includes works committees, canteen committee, Health and Safety Committee, or even the IC Committee to inquire issues of sexual harassment and so on. So these are all important local mechanisms protected by law for worker management dialogue, to strengthen worker management dialogue on the shop floor. But in practice, they come with several challenges. They are often, we find that they are management led, and also tend to be mainly seen from a compliance perspective rather than to provide a space for genuine dialogue to resolve issues. So on top of that, we also see worker representations in these committees or in workplaces in general is often lacking or constrained. So we did not start our work directly with statutory committees, or I can also say we couldn't start directly in statutory committees. So instead, our focus in the pilot was to create right conditions for dialogue first, which we did through a series of facilitated dialogue sessions. The focus was to engage both management staff members and workers. And then after building that foundation and environment for dialogue, secure commitments from both factory management and brands to continue the dialogue process through structured formats, including statutory committees. So this way, the process, we thought the process could be sustained in the long run, and sustained over a long period of time. So we consciously called them as dialogue workshops and not trainings, because these were not trainings, but what we tried to do was to stimulate actual dialogue and exchange and conversation between worker and management in those 4 sessions. So a little bit about the workshops itself. So we have held, the series included 4 workshops, each held in 2 garment factories in Karnataka. The first workshop was with the factory management, encouraging them to reflect on broader challenges faced by the garment industry, as well as very specific concerns that the management has about the production and the way they managed workforce, which included topics like worker absenteeism and turnover. The workshop emphasized that dialogue as a method can be beneficial to both workers and management. The session also discussed the need for inclusive dialogue, allowing both sides to express the views and listen to each other. The second workshop was organized for workers very specifically. It did not include management. So the idea here is to help workers to understand their challenges and facilitate open communication with the management. So through interactive activities, workers were encouraged to discuss concerns related to production, health and safety, and amenities inside the factory. So what we also experienced was some workers were initially very hesitant to speak up. So with the kind of facilitation we used and the sessions we conducted for them, including icebreakers and so on, helped break that barrier. And we found at the end workers were also speaking up about the issues of concern for them. So this was followed by the third workshop, in which again it was for management, where CVDEP team shared workers' concern, whatever concerns that workers shared in the second workshop with them. We updated it to with the management, and emphasized that it is important to listen to this. And we prepared them for the next workshop, where the idea was to bring both parties together. So the fourth workshop brought both parties together, where they discussed issues ranging from absenteeism, worker turnover, production targets, and the need for improved amenities, which the workers raised in the last session. So although maintaining momentum to continue the dialogue was challenging, we experienced some productive discussions took place in these joint workshop. Final meeting with brand representatives and factory management discussed how to institutionalize these dialogue through formal mechanisms, acknowledging that continued effort and commitment from all parties are essential to promote good workplace relationships. So the idea here was the 4 workshops, we were actually able to simulate some kind of conversation on key issues that mattered for both parties, and there were some common understanding of how to take this forward. So what we achieved was that some bit of commitment from the management that they will consider looking into issues like reopening of crash that workers mentioned, and considering improving transport facilities and things like that. So these were the positive outcomes of these workshops, and we have held discussions with them about how this can be carried forward in a structured way in the statutory committees. So this is broadly the approach that we took for this pilot project.
Thanks, Pradeepan. We will come later in the session also to the point of next steps and how this can be taken forward. But first, I would like to ask all the panelists to reflect a little bit on the collaboration in the project. It's quite a unique project in that sense, with the different companies, brands participating, suppliers participating, CSO, trade union participating. What were like the opportunities, but also the challenges in this collaboration from your perspective? Divatje, can I ask you first?
Yeah, I think it was a huge learning experience because, yeah, in the project we created this space for dialogue and also, to question each other, so we learned a lot from the different perspectives, also to bring those perspectives to the table and discuss it both with agents, both with suppliers. So this, I think, was quite unique. Important, in this was also I think the trust building, like I said before, also to open up about grievances or challenges really means that brands should support this and not walk away from their suppliers as soon as critical issues come up. So this commitment played an important role. I think a challenge as for Arisa as the main facilitator of the program has been the change in staff. So with some of the brands there have been changes in staff, which meant that we need to onboard new people to the program, and also again rebuild this trust relationship. So that has been I think the main challenge, but overall the openness also to learn from each other and the different perspectives has been a big win.
Thank you. Muthu, can I also ask you what you experienced in the collaboration?
Yeah, actually, this project is created a unique multi-stakeholder collaboration, bringing all brands, suppliers, and worker representatives in a way that is rarely seen in traditional compliance program. The opportunity what we had seen is it has fostering an open dialogue where all parties could discuss real issues rather than just satisfying the audit requirements. It encouraged trust building, which allowed for meaningful discussion on workplace improvements between top management, middle, and workers. The challenge what we had seen is ensuring sustained engagement from suppliers. Supplier initially perceived the initiative as another audit requirement, rather it is as a capacity building effort. It took a lot of time, and we have to sit with them for multiple times to shift their perspective towards seeing this as a tool for a long-term workplace improvements. Another challenge was due to various reasons, the staff and workers turnover was a major challenge, which required repeated onboarding and retraining to maintain the program continuity.
Yeah, I hear the staff turnover at different levels is a challenge that you all faced. Kira, can you also elaborate a little bit on your vision on the collaboration and what you experienced?
Yes. For me, it was new having so many parties involved. And everyone has its own role. So at the beginning, it was a bit searching who took which role, but through the progress, we quickly learned who does what. And because of these different parties, I experienced new insights, since everyone sees it from its own angle and has different insights on a specific topic or on a specific complaint that has been raised. So I think the challenge was to make it clear who does what and who is facilitating, who is really participating, because for us, Mutu was really present as well, and he was then afterwards sharing with me what has been done. But I think once the roles are clear, it was clear, and the follow-up was structured and clear. So that went well after the first meetings where we divided everything.
Yeah, thank you. Interesting to hear the different perspectives. Pradeepan, can I also, you had a different role with the pilot project. How did you experience both the collaboration with the factory support program team in Tamil Nadu, and also within your pilot, the collaboration?
Yeah. So I'll talk about the brand relationship first. The collaboration with the brands was smooth throughout the duration of the pilot project. And they also played a very important role in encouraging the factories to support the implementation of the program. So we worked with two brands, each managing their sourcing very differently. One brand had a direct commercial relationship with their supplier, whereas the other sourced products through a buying agent, meaning they did not have direct relationship with that particular factory. So in the factory where the brand had direct relationship with the supplier, the process was much smoother. We were able to have in-depth conversation with the management, which made it easier to engage in meaningful discussions about the long-term sustainability of the program. And we also were able to hear from them the specific challenges they had, in doing business and so on. In contrast, at another factory where the brand sourced through a buying agent, the experience was also very different. Despite the factory's cooperation, we found it much harder to have detailed discussions about how to sustain the program over time. Without a direct relationship between brand and the supplier, it became difficult to figure out how the brand could support the factory in sustaining the effort. So at one point, communication with the buying agent almost kind of broke down, largely due to issue of staff turnover there. So we decided to work directly with the supplier to continue the conversation and move forward with the project. So this really highlighted how complex relationships in the supply chain can create these additional layers of challenges. So what helped or worked in both cases were the time and effort we spent in building relationships with the supplier management, independent of our discussions with the brand. So it's very clear, without suppliers' cooperation, we wouldn't have been able to organize the series of workshops we have held there. So our facilitators were able to engage openly with the management, not just discussing the project goals, but also exploring what was realistically expected from the program, from each of the stakeholders. In one instance, the supplier even shared some of the broader challenges they face, like paying for multiple audits and dealing with low margins. Also about the new sustainability norms, that brands want them to adopt and how they end up paying for it. They explained how difficult it is for them to allocate time and resources for improvement programs like this, and they are constantly focused on compliance. So it helped us to understand their issues as well. CVDOP also made sure to consider the suppliers' concerns about the timing and scheduling of the workshops. So transparency, regular updates, and involving them in reviewing and giving feedback on the workshop modules helped build that relationship, and which contributed for the working of the pilot. Another key challenge we faced was bringing up topics of, say, worker leadership or representation with supplier management. A significant takeaway from the project was just how critical it is to have genuine worker leadership and representation, for any worker management dialogue to be effective. So in workplaces, there is often a significant power imbalance. I think there were some questions in the Q&A section also about it. And as facilitators, we try to acknowledge and manage that throughout the dialogue workshops. So, but for these efforts to be sustainable beyond the project, true worker representation needs to be part of the process. So this was often difficult to discuss with suppliers who tended to see these initiatives as trainings or capacity building, despite our repeated clarifications. So we tried our best to kind of, in the process of doing these workshops, to have these conversations with the management very slowly, and also include some of these principles of dialogue in the workshops to address these power asymmetry at large. So I stop here.
Thank you, and thank you for answering some of the questions in the Q&A that are very much on the power relationship, but also the safety of workers and to what extent they are really able and safe to express what they do and what they think. But maybe Neil, before going more into that, can you also explain a little bit about like the collaboration part of the program and how you experienced it?
Actually, to be very honest, it was not that smooth, because for most of the suppliers, this is something kind of a new thing, because this is not audit. They faced audit, they know how to manage audit. But when you come up with something in a new box that we will discuss openly, there will be open dialogue, and we love complexity. We love conflict. That's a very difficult kind of thing to accept initially. Yes, it depends on how much your business is, how long your relationship is, how good your pricing is. These are all very important determinants. But at the same time, there is something, in the system that, yes, we know audit. Audit is non-trusting, audit is fault-finding, but we know audit. But what is this? Where are you trying to open up dialogue on our pain point? Where are you asking conflict on the floor, on the surface? What do you do with that? So there was a very typical resistance. And to open up on this kind of discussion, we had to share a toolkit, like, a case toolkit from different industries, from different cases, where we were able to present that how a dialectical relationship, even in a volatile situation, can create a workplace which is more productive, which is more inclusive, which is a non-headache kind of a system, even for the management. And to do that, we played with different methodologies, we played with different activities, and multiple rounds of dialogue. We had to do that. Again, it was not easy for us to do, because the moment you say that, yes, your committee is there, but it is on paper. Let's have a real committee which can have real dialogue. The fear is there every corner in the system. So to make them understand that, yes, a committee, a truly elected committee who can speak, can be your eyes and ears in the system. To believe that from the heart, it is not easy. We had to have, multiple rounds of dialogue. Then again, we find that system is not responding that well. Again, we tried. Our friends in Arisa, they know how much difficult it was. The journey was like the sigmoid curve. It's up and down, up and down. And after multiple, introductions, then they started realizing, yes, this is somewhere helping us. If the system is trust-based, if everyone is included in the system, somewhere it is helping us in attrition, somewhere it is helping us in reducing day-to-day absenteeism, somewhere it is also helping us in dealing with the daily chaos in the system. So that's where we were able to start. Yes, Sandra.
Thank you. And I would like to relate a little bit with my next question to the panel to some of the the questions who are also about the results and the success factors. So I also invite the panelists to answer some questions directly in writing. But just before we get into the specific questions, I would like to get into a little bit into the results. I hope to have some short questions so that we can have some time for the participants and their questions. Kira, when it comes to the most impactful results that you feel were achieved, what would you say?
I think in our case, it was the elections of the committees and the functioning of them, and really verifying afterwards how they function once they have been elected. And then related to that, addressing and follow up on grievances, because there was still a lot of unclarities on how elections work and how they should function and how to keep track on the longer term that the functioning is well. And some of the grievances that were received once the elections were done was, for example, that there was not sufficient protective materials such as masks, which have been taken up by the management, and they ordered more because there was apparently not ordered enough. There were also questions on food, and that there needs to be more different food. And then lunch break questions was also something that came up, to enlarge the lunch break a bit longer, for example. That were a few things that came up.
Okay, thank you. Muthu, anything to add to that? Because you were in the factories, more close to the factories. Can you share what you see as the most impactful results?
Yeah, the impactful results, the establishment of worker committees, the election and formal recognition of workers committees provide a structured mechanism for workers' representation, ensuring their voices are heard in decision making, and operationalizing the grievance system. The previously grievance were often raised informally or inconsistently addressed. But through this program, a structured grievance process was implemented, making it easier for workers to report concerns and ensuring the management to take necessary actions on it. And also cultural shift in communication, initially workers hesitate to speak up their concerns due to fear or retaliation of their job. Over time, with the repeated training and dialogue session, we bring workers to become more confident in voicing their concerns, and management become more open to listen their voices and take corrective actions against their grievances. And also, it is like improved working condition, practical changes were made based on grievances, raised, such as better provision of protective equipment, mask, better break time, and also clear, food, they requested for variety of food rather than uniformity on a daily basis. So this kind of things has given us a more impactful result in this program center.
Thank you. Neil, can I ask you as well? And maybe you can also refer to some of the questions that were there when it comes to results, because there's asked also in the relation to the committees and the elections and the involvement of trade unions and how that took place.
The first thing, the kind of dialogue we had with the management, that do you really love workers who are open to talk? Do you love vocal workers? The answer was no. All management everywhere, vocal people are not loved. They are always cornered, and they are not typically elected in the committees. So that's where we found committee members are there on paper, audit compliant, but they are actually not vocal people who can come up with some ideas where they can point out loopholes in the system. And that's where really conducting election and really picking up people, like, enabling the committee, our participatory committee, so that they can go to the department, make workers believe that, yes, this particular system will work. And if you speak here, open up, there will be no threat of retaliation. And it was multiple efforts, but because they have experience for the years that if I open up, I will be thrown out of the system. And most of the people coming from distant states, trying to settle here near the factory, life is very fragile there. So here, ensuring my job continuity is more important than speaking up. So many workers, they openly shared that I want to say so many things, but I will not, because I have to somehow survive. So to work with this kind of system, we had to sit with the mid-management first, because mid-management is that layer which actually carries all the information from ground to top and top to ground. So we had to sit with the mid management to make them understand the strength of the voice. And if they really work with grievances, in most of the factory, they will come up with a grievance management register, which is always, there is no grievance, and auditors are happy. So we had this open discussion. Do you think a zero grievance in the system is good or not? Even in a family of 4, I have so many grievances to deal with. So if a family of 200 you have, how much grievances you could have? So that kind of open discussion, and then they realize, okay, grievance is not bad. In my grievance management register, if there are 100 grievances, that means your system is healthy. That means you are listening. That means your workers are heard. And that kind of discussion with smaller groups, larger groups, different mixed groups, resulted in a very, very different kind of outcomes. We heard very difficult stories. We heard stories regarding very difficult kind of harassment. We heard stories where people are not allowed to move. Their movement was restricted. So these kind of stories we heard, and then we had very open dialogue that, do you think this is somewhere helping you in managing your factory? This is the kind of future you look for your brand, like as a factory? After many rounds of this kind of factory, including the committee members, we find that people started understanding the value of opening up, the value of dialogue. Now, when you do that, there is another fear, whether you include all the migrant workers in the dialogue. Are migrant workers should be given this kind of platform? Is it too risky for the factory? So all this discussion happened, and ultimately we were able to find some places for people. It's not done yet. I would say it's only 30% done, because it's a long-standing problem which needs far deeper, interventions. And very interestingly, when this kind of dialogue is happening, you would find workers, contracted workers in the system, the workers who are not registered in the system, people without any social benefit in the system. How do you include that? How do you see that invisible workforce? How do you recognize that? Even there are people who have, the social benefits. They don't know how to get those benefits, because they have never given that kind of training. So we started with that how to technically, manage your social management system, how to apply for that, how to get all the benefits. And also, like, what is your fair wage? That dialogue was really difficult. What do you think? How do you spend your wage? What is your wage? What are the components? What are the deductions? What are legal? What deductions are absolutely not legal? So understanding your pay slip, understanding your deductions, understanding your, your social benefits. This was something we did with the committee members and also with the larger workforce when we started, campaigning like in the factory. And for the grievance, we always believe that if Muhammad cannot go to the mountain has to come to Muhammad. So in our experience, we have always seen that the complaint box is always empty. Factory is happy and auditors are definitely happy. But why people don't put their complaints in the suggestion complaint box? So we tried many different kind of mechanism, like a running train, a kind of post office which is coming, which is singing, which is dancing, a clown dancing and coming to you, engaging in your dialogue. In last December, we had many Santas with toffees and balloons coming to you and engaging in your dialogue. And they are coming up with very interesting and very glaring violations, which was not there in the system, in the traditional grievance management system. Then our second challenge was how to integrate these things in your set management system. This shouldn't be only one-time effort. This shouldn't be only one time like train running or the Santa going. You have to reiterate, you have to place this as a standard procedure of your system. And that was not very easy. There was huge resistance. But in some of the places, it was properly done. In some places, in bits and pieces. Yes, Sandra.
Thank you. We always have too little time for too many things to say. Many questions, and I like the fact that the participants are really participating by putting these questions. Part of them are being answered by the participants themselves. Pradipan, when it comes to the most impactful results, what would you say? Please keep it short so that we can also go to the future.
Yes. My response will be very short. So, yeah, I mean, as I mentioned before, we didn't start our work with committees directly. It's rather we tried to have stimulate dialogue through workshops. So we did not expect magic to happen in that 6 months of. I mean, 1 year was a project time. I mean, a lot of it also went in building this relationship and giving shape to the project and workshops. So. But still we experienced some positive outcomes. But it also gave us a lot of insights about the challenges, in doing this kind of work. I think Neil also explained in detail about it. I will not get into it. So in terms of positive outcomes, yeah, I mean, we noticed improvements in communication between worker and management, at least participating workers and management staff, who participated in the workshop. So it opened up lines of communication between them. So there was a kind of a commitment to continue dialogue, and it also laid some sort of a foundation for future engagement. And management also acknowledged that no, they found it to be a positive experience to sit with workers and have these discussions, which was not the usual practice. But what kind of stood with me was that during one of the sessions, I mean, in the joint workshop that we had with worker and management, one woman, female worker, stood up and said, I mean, yes, I mean, this workshop is fine, all that you are doing is fine, but instead of talking to us, I mean, it's important that worker leadership is acknowledged, and such discussions happen with worker leadership. So that struck me and that stood with me. So we were able to kind of create that space within that 4 meetings and engagement, where a worker could stand up and say that worker leadership and representation should be there for this initiatives to work. So that was quite kind of an important thing that I see. Apart from this, we also got commitments. I mean, as a result of the dialogue where workers and management expressed their needs. At one factory, management committed to reinstate a creche facility which was closed during COVID times, which was also a need of workers. And they also promised to increase nurse visits. And at the other factory, they committed to consider improving worker transportation. And Together, they also decided that they will continue discussions and dialogue on worker turnover and issues that management raised. So these were all some of the positive outcomes, immediate positive outcomes. But overall, there was also a recognition for the need for such dialogue spaces, which are among all parties. So which I also see as a very positive outcome of these efforts. Of course, there are challenges, but this question is mostly about positive outcomes. Over to Sandra.
Thank you, Pratibha. And last but not least, I also wanted Divatje to say something about what in your view are the most impactful results before we go to the
Yeah, so well, part of it is really about the concrete improvements in 11 factories, and this is a variety of improvements, like already shared by Kira and Muthu, but also, for instance, the registration of migrant workers for social security schemes. Making more workers permanent in a particular factory, a women worker addressing safety issues in the transportations, which was then immediately resolved. So there are quite some concrete examples on on how management and workers addressed grievances that came up. So I think that's an important result. That's what we wanted to achieve. I think another important result is that 3 of the brands continued the approach. So after the project stopped and the external funding stopped, they continued working with Paradigm Shift on continued dialogue sessions and still working on some of the grievances that were raised, which are not easily to resolve like in a short timeline. If it comes to excessive working hours and wages, it also reflects back to purchasing practices, it reflects back to production planning, etc. So giving this space and also time to address this is needed. So I think the continuation by 3 brands, and we also are having discussions with the others on how to continue. But that shows, I think, to me, that's an important result, because this commitment, this long-term commitment to work on this approach is very important also to sustain the functioning of the committees and to sustain the actual results at the work floor.
Yeah, thank you, Divatje, and thank you for bridging to more the future perspective of the program. I see that there are still a lot of questions on also the details of the program and on how things were achieved, how suppliers were convinced and participating, how brands engaged with their suppliers, how workers could be in a safe place without the fear of retaliation. We have some links at the end of the session to some resources where we have explained a little bit more in detail part of the results. But we will try to see to what extent this still can be addressed, but we probably will not be able to address all the details in this session. Then 1.5 hours is too short to explain.
Sandra, can I come for 15 seconds?
Sorry?
Can I come for 15 seconds?
Yes,
can I get a 15
seconds? Please go ahead.
So, because I was listening to all this, because when we started this, real dealing the real grievances, in the first few months, we were only getting the petty grievances, like, the toilet is not clean, hand wash facility is not there, drinking water is, not enough. So this kind of thing. But these were all indications. And slowly, when the relationship was mature, then we started getting grievances along, like extremely high work pressure and not allowed to speak, excessive overtime, and even not allowed to exercise, their right as a committee members. And there is no safety measures for night shift workers. And some people are, dealing with some hazardous operation. some sexual harassment kind of thing, and also, like my freedom of movement is restricted. So you need to have that kind of maturity in the relationship. Then only we can receive this kind of grievances. Yes, Sandra.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you for adding that to the conversation. As Diewertje was already saying, like you have a project with some results, but you want these projects to sustain, and you want to take forward the learnings. So that is a little bit the topic of the last part of this session, the main learnings and the next steps. Muthu, I would like to start with you. When you look at the program and your experience in it, what are the learnings that you take forward?
Yes, Sandra. This program, really helped us to training the capacity building. There were many issues were not, arised because of lack of awareness. It is not intentionally violated, but because of the lack of awareness, there are a lot of issues. Workers and management both need structured training, to understand what is their roles to ensure the fair workplace. And also, this cannot be done at only within a one-time training session, because it has to have a regular follow-up, like a reference training and monitor mechanism, which need to keep for a worker committee active and effective. And also, open communication leads to lasting change, encouraging a culture of dialogue with mutual respect between workers and management. Significantly, it can improve the workplace condition, and it can improve the productivity in the factory.
Thank you,
Thank
Muthu.
you.
Kira, as colleague, but from a little bit other perspective, how do you look at that? The main lessons that you take with you?
A bit the same as what Muthu said, but I would like to add that I think it's really important, and what we've learned is to always encourage or try to encourage open dialogue, and to encourage it, I think we need to intensify the trainings. And after this project, we will see if Muthu can help in there to train the workers and the management further on this. And I think we have to repeat this to keep it living within the factories. And we will see if we can also do the same or conduct the same at other suppliers. Because I think the biggest way why it was not functioning yet is the lack of knowledge. So I think that's the first thing. First, train them on getting to know what their rights are, what they can speak up about, and train on this, and then see if there's already elections and committees functioning, and if not, that could be the second step then to form them, and to form them in the correct way and how it should be formed.
Yeah. And at your level, Kira, have you been able, like results and learnings from the program, have you been able to integrate that in some practices or policies within your own organization?
To be honest, not yet, because we are still continuing the project with paradigm shift, but it's on the planning, because I think in a few weeks I will also sit together with Diewertje to check if we can already start integrating and implementing it in our policy specifically. So it's on the planning, but we first would like to see a bit more of the results and what's ahead, and then see if we can integrate it in our policies and in our planning towards the near future.
Thank you. Pradeepan, I would like to come to you for a moment. You have already said something about how what factors were successful in your approach, but can you explain a little bit more about how you have been, or what your perspective is on this process, and how to achieve more sustainable results towards the future as well?
Yeah, I think there are a few key factors that really contributed to in helping us implement the approach and also seeing some results. First and foremost, the pre-dialogue activities played a huge role. So we used interactive methods like in the workshops, icebreakers, team building exercise, and quite importantly, role plays where each party were allowed to stepping into each other's shoes and look at issues. So to some extent, these helped manage the power imbalances between workers and management. So there was some bit of understanding, that there is value to what each party is saying, and there is a need to listen to it, even if you don't have to necessarily respond to it immediately. So these activities helped ease tensions and set the right tone and allowed both parties, both sides to better understand each other's expectations. Even though there were some heated discussions during the workshops, we were able to reach some common understanding on critical issues, which I mentioned earlier, that there was some recognition on part of management, certain shortcomings, have to be addressed. Another important factor was the work of the dialogue facilitators in building environment, a conducive environment for dialogue. So this was achieved through relationship building, investing time towards that, having transparent communication with the suppliers, setting the expectations right, keeping them updated at every stage, and involving them in the process whenever it came to reviewing, for example, workshop modules. They were given opportunities to give feedback, and so on. So the kind of collaboration helped ensure that the management team felt more confident, in the process and more committed to its working. So beyond that, the pilot highlighted the need for long-term commitment and robust mechanisms for ongoing dialogue. Statutory committees, as they are currently set up, often don't facilitate meaningful dialogue in practice. So while our efforts helped bridge some gaps there, achieving sustainable change really dependent on the commitment of brands and factory management. So also one of the insights we got is like the role of the state, in monitoring and ensuring that these statutory committees really work, because these are also legal mechanisms. So that was also quite important for us, for to move ahead. It is very important that we have state's role there. So we knew these are long-term work, and a pilot project cannot provide solution to all of this in the limited period of time. But this understanding helped us, setting expectations with each other and everyone in the project, and could have genuine conversations. So managing expectations was also key, that what each one can do. I mean, what are the limitations? What are the contexts and structural issues that it's preventing, despite having the right intent. So yeah, I stop here.
Thank you, Pradipan. Neil, can I ask the same question to you about the important factors that contributed to some successful implementation and sustainability? And maybe you can also take into account, because one question is related to the limited part that what suppliers can do. They cannot do that all alone, and what role brands can play. And as the brands were involved in this project, can you maybe also explain a little bit how you experienced the support of the brands towards this supplier? Thank you.
Exactly. So whenever we discussed with the supplier, we assured them that this is your system, and we, as a partner, we are also part of your extended team. So your pain is our pain. And we always understand there are some issues which are, like low-hanging fruits, which you easily resolve. There are some issues which are in the regional specific long-standing practices. And these are very difficult for you to resolve. And we understand that. So let's start with the low-hanging fruits, but constantly strategize to move towards the challenging one. How to do that? And in that discussion, we are happy that, in this was like, more stakeholder engagement. This kind of discussion, Arisa was also included sometimes, and also our buying agents included, brand representatives also included. And because of that, it was easier for us to move, because sometimes factories think that, well, if I try to do this kind of harder thing, what will happen to my future? Like, it will increase my production cost. What will happen to the next buying order kind of thing? Because it's a complex dynamics, and pricing is a very important factor. So balancing all that, it's a task, and you have to sit on the fire to discuss on this. This cannot be done with 2-3 games or intervention or activities. And we started doing that, and it is not yet finished. It will take some time. Now, the thing is, when you really, we started dealing with the grievances. Case by case, we had discussion with the management that if you resolve this, if you really work on this, do you think this is beneficial? There are some grievances where management said, no, this is too touchy for us to handle. We will not. Then we had, okay, don't do that right now, but let's open up the discussion and let's continue that. Where is the fear? Where is that fear factor that you think that if you handle or touch this kind of grievance, it can unsettle your system? So that kind of discussion we were able to do, because we had a very close, like monitoring or close intervention every month. And even within a month, because we always felt that the real development is happening, real progress is happening in the factory between our 2 visits, between our 2 interventions. That's the space. And in between that space, if the factory needs some kind of like hand-holding support, we were there. That yes, you need some support. You are feeling unsafe. We are there. We will be there to help you. We will there to help to open up this dialogue. So that way we were, some some cases, some critical cases, we are able to progress. And also, like, how to recognize that committee members are actually beneficial and they should be given some time. In most of the factories, committee members don't even get a notebook, don't even get a small notebook and pen to write their, their observations. So we always said that if you think they are your HR manager and they are your trainee deputies, smaller HR in the factory roaming around. So if you treat like that, they also need some time. They also need kind of a support. They also need to come together and discuss. So after all this, I think we were able to have some kind of progress. And also the issue of like the migrants, how to listen to their pains, how to listen to their, regular stories. Language barrier is there. Our team was multilingual. That was one thing. Secondly, there is a cultural difference. They are saying something, you are misinterpreting because of the cultural barrier. So that kind of, in that kind of setup, until and unless you have very open heart-to-heart discussion, then only you can understand the pain of the migrant and their needs. So fortunately, in most of the cases, we are able to have that. And this really helped. Yes, Sandra.
Thank you. I think we have been able to share quite a lot on the content of the program. Maybe it's good if we focus a little bit on some of the, because questions have been repeated. I would like to draw our attention a little bit on the worker safeguarding process. There's a comment that it says that participants experience that workers who participated in these kind of trainings or dialogues, they opened up, but then afterwards faced negative consequences for opening up. To what extent have we in this program experienced this in practice, or what did we do to avoid that, and did we check afterwards if that did not happen? Because at the moment that you have a training, it will probably not happen, but afterwards these things might have happened. So maybe we can say a little bit more about that. Pradeepa, Neil, who can I give the floor? Pradeepa.
Yeah, I think I tried to answer this question in the Q&A box. But again, I mean, so expectation setting, I mean, having very honest conversation with the suppliers even before we started the program helped. I mean, because when we initially introduced the program, again, it was largely seen as a program directed towards compliance. I mean, that, and it was also, I mean, the inclination was to see it as a training program or a capacity building. So we kept insisting that this is different. That this is the actual intention is to to bring two conflicting parties together for discussion. Of course, we didn't use the word conflicting, but basically saying that there is an element of when it comes to perspectives, needs, and there is a difference. So we did that with management quite extensively. So that really helped. So I cited this example where a woman kind of brought up this question of worker leadership. So the response was like, it was met with silence. I mean, none of the management staff responded to it, but we ensured that in the next session we ensured that we spoke to that worker and see, I mean, if everything was fine with her, because she stood up and spoke truth, I mean, in that space, right? I mean, our expectation was that, I mean, it wouldn't have been taken very lightly with the management, but so for our reflection, we understood the kind of preparations we did before the workshops really helped, prepared the management to, to confront challenging issues like that. So that's how we dealt with the issue of safety. But yeah, it's in a workshop. So basically, I don't want to generalize it, but yeah, this is one of the learnings that we took away.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Neil?
Yeah, I was reflecting on that because we clearly had this discussion at the beginning of the project that if you really work on the grievance management system, if it is really open space, then be ready to face very interesting grievances, very touchy grievances, and critical one. Either you say yes, we are ready for that, then only we will work on that. Otherwise, it will be always zero, grievances in the grievance register. So we had this very open and courageous discussion with our brands and sourcing agent and also with the factory. And we had a very clear understanding that if you want to shut down voices, then it will not work. It will be another kind of a project and it will just run like this. So you have to be brave enough. And here, I must thank, that despite we are very closely monitoring the committees and the people who are opening up, we had, the support of the sourcing agents. That yes, we are having all this. And if there are this kind of situation, you have to back up. You have to take a stand and you have to, convince the management not to go out of the way. So that support we always received. And sourcing agents, actually, they regularly visited factory, to be very honest, to see the progress and also the kind of real grievances coming up on the surface. And very interestingly, in some cases, some of the committee members, they were relieved from the job. In some cases, we actually followed up each and every case with the management and tried to understand what actually happened. Is this because the person was very vocal, or is this because he has got some better opportunity. So we had this close look and close review while opening up the system and try to create a very safe space kind of a thing. Yes, Sandra.
Thank you. We are about to close this session, but there's one topic that I would like to still address a little bit, which is also a topic that comes up in the questions, which is the relation between the worker committees, the statutory committees, and the trade unions, the freedom of association. To what extent the factory trainings have been a first step towards freedom of association? To what extent existing trade unions have been involved in this process? Maybe we can, in 1 minute, say something about this. I know this is a topic for another session, but maybe Neil, can you explain a little bit about how you have seen that in the trainings?
So in trainings with the committee members, we always have this very open dialogue, and as I said, that they have our numbers. If there is anything, they can discuss with us. But at the same time, we always seen that there is a huge resistance from the management if workers are getting involved with outside union, or if they are getting membership, or even unions are directly approaching the factory. To close this gap, we had very open and courageous session in the factory that what is the fear? If you have this, there is a huge taboo, absolute no kind of situation. But ultimately, in some workshops, we were able to connect these two. Union were there and committee members were there, managers were there, and we were had very open discussion. And in fact, there was mistrust from both sides. Unions have very open mistrust about the management about have their huge mistrust about union, and it has to go somewhere. And this is a very difficult dialogue, and we don't have any spot answer, to be very honest. But I think if we carry on this kind of interaction, thing will definitely improve.
Thank you. Dioche,
yeah, I would like to add to that,
and then I want to close.
Yeah, so I see Pradeepan also wants to react. Yeah, so for all the participants tomorrow, there is another side session that is specifically focusing on this topic, because this was one of the factors also researched by Mondial FNV. So tomorrow there is a session on workers agency in Indian garment factories. So I would really recommend to participate in that session as well, to have more insights on this discussion between workers committees and freedom of association.
Thank you, Dioche. Pradeepan, if you can say it in 10 seconds, then please.
I'll quickly respond to this. So I don't want to, I'm not able to see it as just an issue of trust between unions and management, but rather it's a much bigger problem, because we have, in India itself, there are industries where trade unions participate in committee elections, and we see functional committees there. So it's also a much broader question of how the industry itself organized, and how freedom of association is challenge across the board. So there's a long-term work, is involved in improving this. So some kind of transformational change has to happen too. So a lot of organizing efforts are ongoing in places, in pockets, like in places like Bangalore and so on. But we don't see unions are able to, get into the factories, and work with the workers there or at the committee level. So these are all gaps that needs to be, understood, and there should be more conversations around this.
Thank you. Thank you, Pradeepan. Yes, as said, this is a question that hopefully will be addressed partially tomorrow in this other session. But for now, this session ends. I would like to thank all the panelists for their honest and open contribution to the session. I also would like to thank very much the participants for their active participation with all the questions. We have tried to include the questions in the answers, so had to answer the questions in the different contributions. We will share like some main outputs of this session with all the participants that had registered. I saw we had almost 100 participants at a certain point of time in the session, so that is very positive. I don't know, Susanne, do we have a slide with some links? There are some links to some more information about the factory support program. We will also include these links in the communication after the session. But for the ones that are still here, there are some articles on the ARISA website. There's a different, there's the paper of Mondial FNV that will be discussed tomorrow in a side session. And there is a short briefing. So thank you so much for today, for your active participation, and please be in touch with us in case you need to know more. Thank you very much. Enjoy the other side sessions where you will be participating, and hopefully we will be in touch. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.